We are currently living through a health crisis. We are getting sicker and sicker, fatter and fatter, and so many people are nutrient deficient and don't even know it.
Obesity and metabolic disease is the #1 risk factor to all forms of cancer.
Just the statistics of what is happening to our health in this country and uniquely in America is dark.
And we're running to the latest and greatest green superfood or multivitamin or Ozempic to try to fix these problems, yet it's not the solution. I grew up eating the standard American diet and was pretty unhealthy from it. I was what was known as skinny fat. Very skinny, yes, but not healthy at all. And in general, I just didn't make the best choices when it came to health and didn't take good care of my body. But around 8 years ago, something switched in my brain. I had a few friends pass away and it really made me look at the decisions I was making, and in particular, my health. So I decided to take my health a lot more seriously, and that decision has been the best decision I have ever made. Because for every second I put into making my body or my mind healthier, I get so much more from life because of it. The return on investment for your health is always going to be incredibly high. Throughout those 8 years, I have experimented with many different diets and different ways of eating and went down many rabbit holes of research and science to try to figure out what's the best thing for me to eat. And in this video, we're gonna dive into exactly that, the foods that I eat that make me feel the best and give my body the nutrition that it needs, and some of the data and research that I found on supporting this way of eating for those who might be a little more skeptical. Warning, this video is very controversial, as the question of what we should versus shouldn't eat is arguably one of the most debated topics in the world. So this is just what works really well for me, but like anything in life, there's no one size fits all. Let's get into what I eat. I eat a modified version of what is known as an animal-based diet, which basically means the base of my food pyramid, what I primarily eat, are animal foods. Like I mentioned, I've experimented with many different ways of eating, paleo, keto, vegan, carnivore, and landed on animal-based and modified it to fit my life and my goals and foods that work really well for me. Majority of my calories come from these foods. Lots of red meat in the form of steak or ground beef or bison, and not very much chicken or pork, which I'll get into in a little bit, and lots of eggs and lots of raw milk. Majority of my calories come from those 3 foods. And those foods are also sourced from farmers markets or regenerative farms. Next up, I eat a decent amount of fruit. This is obviously things like berries or papaya or mango or stuff like that, but also things like avocado, eggplant, squash, peppers. These are all technically a fruit as they have a seed in them. I also consume tubers, which are things like sweet potatoes, or beets. And then certain plant foods or vegetables, things like rice, fermented sourdough, kimchi, or sauerkraut. And occasionally I will have organ meats, things like liver or even beef testicle. And that's pretty much it. 90% of the time, this is what I'm eating. I'm also cooking majority of this food myself. And occasionally if I'm traveling or if I want to go out with my girlfriend, I will go to a restaurant and just make sure that they're cooking with natural ingredients and not using seed oils. Eating this way has dramatically improved my life and every aspect of my life, because when you are getting the nutrition that you need, every area of your life usually improves. Your overall general health will improve. But some specific things, first of all, I noticed an increase in libido or sex drive, as well as my testosterone increased pretty significantly. Overall, my physical physique is much better. I can put on a lot more muscle and a lot easier. I feel also a lot stronger and I have better endurance, which is important because I do sports like jiu-jitsu. From a mental health perspective, which a lot of people don't realize how much diet affects your mind, I have a lot more creativity, less brain fog, and overall, my mood and overall happiness in life is a lot better than it was when I wasn't taking good care of my health. The reality is what you put in your body affects the output of your body. If you're getting the nutrition that you need, every area of your life, every output that you put into life will be improved, generally speaking. And if I compare how I feel on all the other diets, all the other ways of eating that I've tried, the reason why I've stuck with this is because I genuinely feel the best. But let's dive into why these foods, why this way of eating works for me and for thousands of other people. First thing is the foods I'm eating are very satiating. There are many things that make eating certain foods addictive. One of the components though is how satiating the food is, and this is usually scaled on a percentage. And if you look at a lot of junk food, the satiating percentage is usually really low, which basically means you're not satisfied after you eat the food and continue to want more. However, animal foods, the primary base of my diet, are incredibly satiating while also being incredibly nutrient dense. A lot of calorie restrictive diets where they don't focus on the quality of food leave people really hungry all the time, and it makes it unsustainable, but also it's a sign that you're not getting the food that you need, because generally speaking, very nutrient dense food is always going to be a lot more satiating. And with that, animal foods, particularly milk and steak and eggs, are incredibly nutrient dense and bioavailable. Bioavailability refers to the fraction of nutrients inside of the food that can be absorbed into your body. So there are lots of foods that are nutrient dense. A great example of this is spinach, but not as bioavailable as something like steak. And really, when we're thinking about eating foods, we want to pick nutrient-dense foods that we also can actually absorb into our body. Raw milk, red meat, and eggs have an incredible list of all of the nutrients that are inside them, and considering they're incredibly bioavailable, this makes as an easy decision, in my opinion, to make them the base of my food pyramid. What you do most matters most. What you eat most matters most. And part of the reason I feel so good on this diet is because what I'm eating most is incredibly bioavailable and nutrient dense. Also, a lot of fruits and vegetables over the last 60 years have been dramatically losing their nutrient density, making it harder for us eating just plants or just vegetables to get the nutrition that we actually need without supplementing on the side. There's a study where they dive into how bad the nutrition deficiencies in food are nowadays. They say certain vegetables or high-yielding fruits have lost 25 to 50% of their nutrient density, and things like sodium have declined by 52%, iron by 50%, copper by 49%, and magnesium by 10%. This once again makes a strong argument that the base of your food period, what you eat most, needs to be something that's nutrient dense, and it's now even harder to get nutrients from plants or vegetables or even fruits. Also, on this note, a lot of health issues that people suffer from are actually a cause of nutrient deficiencies or micronutrient inadequacies. A lot of people, especially those who are trying to be healthy, they focus a lot on the macros, things like protein, fat, carbs, etc. But yet the micronutrition profile of food is arguably one of the more important things to look for. When your body is deficient in vitamins and minerals, every part of your body suffers from this. I actually made a documentary diving into how nutrient deficiencies lead to things like infertility and how certain food groups can actually help you become more fertile. This is a great example of how nutrition is just so important for every part of your body. This way of eating also follows kind of the best rule of thumb for health, which is cook most of the food you eat. Most processed foods and consumer packaged goods are dead foods. They're not very nutrient dense, and they also contain a lot of toxins or chemicals or seed oils that, generally speaking, are not good for you long term. When you cook all of your own food, you can control what goes in the food, but you can also control the source, as the sourcing of where you get your food matters a lot too. This diet also does check the box and macros. Like I said, a lot of people focus only on macros. I think you should actually start with micronutrients first and then go to macronutrients. But I get a lot of protein, the best protein that humans can consume, animal foods. I also get a lot of good saturated healthy fat, and I do get a decent amount of carbohydrates, which I don't personally think are that bad, and I get most of my carbs from raw milk. Now, this diet is also customized to who I am and my goals and what I'm looking for in life. My goals is to build strength and muscle and just overall feel really good, but if someone was trying to lose weight or maybe gain a ton of muscle, they might do different things or have different foods, which is why the best diet is something that is customized to the individual. And also, a lot of people actually can be allergic to certain foods. A great example is broccoli contains a thing called FODMAPs, which some people have allergies to, similarly to gluten. So this is why I think we always need to customize our diet. There's no one size fits all, follow this diet strictly to a T, but I do believe that this diet mimicked in some form is going to be really beneficial for a lot of people. Of course, like everything, you want to consult your doctor. But I'm not the only one who eats this way. There are thousands, if not potentially millions of people who are eating a version of this diet in a different variation. I also have tons of friends and tons of people that I know that eat this way and report feeling the best that they've ever felt in comparison to other diets. Now, the biggest concern or the biggest debate that goes on with eating this way is how much animal foods have been demonized in our culture. There's been a general health consensus for the past few decades that red meat, animal foods in general, saturated fat, cholesterol, these are all really bad things that should be avoided. And this has also been backed by, tons of vegan movements, vegan documentaries, vegan products, Beyond Meat, etc., that are pushing people to eat pretty much completely opposite to the way that I do. Now, I actually made a comedy video where I dive into some of the more specifics around the myths and debunking them when it comes to red meat and animal foods, but let's dive into that concept a little bit more for the people who might be concerned that this diet might kill them. A lot of the studies that have been done associating red meat to things like cancer or heart disease or other health problems stem from a certain type of science known as epidemiology or observational studies. These studies observe and ask people what they ate through a certain period of time and then look at the outcomes of their health. The biggest flaws of observational studies is usually that they have a lot of confounding variables that they may not account for. Confounding variables in these cases would be things like how much does the individual exercise? Do they smoke? Do they drink? Do they get good sleep? Do they overall take good care of their health? And a lot of the studies that we use as kind of the recommendations for how humans should eat are based off of those observational studies where they don't account for the confounding variables. And we actually have studies that have been done that do account for the confounding variables, and red meat and its association with cancer and heart disease and all these things that's usually shunned for don't exist in that data. But also you have thousands, if not millions, of anecdotal evidence. Yes, it's anecdotal, like mine. It's just me saying, I feel really good eating this, but that is always something to look at as a part of science. Thousands, if not millions of people eat this way. Maybe there's something true about this and maybe we're a little bit wrong. A great example of this is actually a video that was recently done where an individual ate 720 eggs in 1 month and lowered his cholesterol. Generally speaking, eggs or egg yolks are shunned because the yolk contains a lot of dietary cholesterol. And the point that he made in this video is that dietary cholesterol doesn't always associate a 1-to-1 ratio with the body's cholesterol. The cholesterol that you eat only contributes to about 1/5 of the cholesterol that you make in your body. Your liver and intestines make the rest. Cholesterol is also created by the body for good reasons. It plays a big role in producing hormones like testosterone and estrogen for women. It's required to make vitamin D. And there's a lot of belief actually that we've been shunning saturated fat for its cholesterol content, while there might be something else at play. Some people believe seed oils that could be affecting our clogged arteries and heart disease. And also important note here, I'm making the case for ethically raised, regenerative farmed animal foods. This is part of the reason why I don't eat a lot of pork or a lot of chicken, because it's really hard to find chicken or pork in those categories. I'm not recommending for people to eat McDonald's meat or, conventionally farmed meat that, is unethical or maybe doesn't treat the animals correctly. Now I'm going to link a document in the description for those who want to see all of the science and all of the research that I have on supporting this way of eating. If you want to fact check me or dive more into it, this is where you should go. And of course, food is just one piece of the health equation. It is a big piece, but there's many other things that you can do to improve your health, so it doesn't stop with the food that you consume. And if you could take anything away from this video, it's that no one can or will care more about your health than you. And taking good care of your health is actually the most selfish, selfless thing that you could do. Thanks for watching.